If you're ready for honest conversations on a variety of health topics and a return to the fundamentals of natural and holistic healing, welcome. Grab your filtered water, get comfortable, and let's drop some truth. Hello, and welcome to the first episode of Truth Bombs and Tinctures. I'm Dr. Aviva Wertkin, and I'm here with my co-host, Dr. Robin Tauzin.
Hi, everybody.
Dr. Tauzin and I are here to bring honesty and clarity to a wellness landscape that is overwhelming with fads and quick fixes and conflicting advice. We realized it was time to team up and create a resource of genuine, straightforward information on holistic health and healing. This first episode is more of an intro to give you guys a little background about us and context before we dive into more provocative health topics in future episodes. So, Dr. Tauzin and I are both naturopathic doctors. For those of you who are not familiar, naturopathic doctors attend 4-year medical schools. Naturopathic medical schools are similar to MD medical schools with a few key differences. But first, let me go over some of the similarities. Naturopathic doctors have to learn all of the same basic sciences, just the same as medical doctors. And we also are trained in pharmacology and minor surgery. But in addition to that, we are also trained in many of the natural medicine tools. That includes nutrition and diet, herbal medicine, homeopathy, physical medicine, and mind-body medicine. But many people think that what distinguishes naturopathic doctors from medical doctors are the tools that we use, when that can be one of the things, but it's not the only thing. I would say one of the biggest key differences between a medical and a traditional naturopathic doctor is the paradigm and the philosophy of how we practice. And I do want to highlight that I said traditional naturopathic doctor because not all naturopathic doctors practice the same. We're going to dive into that a little bit more. And maybe this would be a good time for you, Dr. Tauzin, to jump in and talk a little bit more about the differences between MDs and NDs.
Absolutely. So I do think that is one of the biggest challenges that we do face. People don't really understand what naturopathic doctors really do. They don't even realize that we can prescribe drugs in some states, just like MDs. They think we know less, but we learn so much more in school. And I was the same. I didn't realize naturopathic doctors were that different from MDs. I thought they just handed out herbals instead of pills. And it wasn't until I got to school that I realized there's so much more to it.
I love that you said that because I think so many people have that idea and they always want to know what's the natural alternative to the drug.
Right.
And they have no idea that naturopathic medicine is so much more than that. And if I could just add that the philosophy, I know once I get talking, it's hard for me to stop, but I thought the philosophy was just something really boring that had no real clinical significance. And I was so wrong. The philosophy is really the foundation and the guidebook for clinical success. And I really saw that firsthand in our clinical training before I even graduated, when I was observing with doctors who practice differently. And when I first saw a doctor who applied this philosophy in practice, I saw cures I never even knew were possible. And it blew my mind. And I became a big philosophy nerd after that.
And I want to drop a real truth bomb here. Conventional medicine and naturopathic medicine, we're playing two different games, guys. Conventional medicine, they're built for symptom management. That's what they do. Naturopathic medicine, we're not doing symptom management. Our goal is total health restoration. So two very different aims here. So conventional medicine, they will tell you that you can't cure your disease. You're going to have to take a pill for the rest of your life. The symptoms are the enemy. We need to fight it. And then they're going to suppress your symptoms with pharmaceutical drugs. That's the game they're playing. It may be helpful for people to suppress their symptoms in certain situations, but suppression is not the same thing as real healing. Suppression actually makes things worse. It can drive disease deeper into the system. So it's not really the answer for most people, especially for chronic disease. So naturopaths, on the other hand, we're asking the question, why is the body doing this? What is root cause of this? We don't see symptoms as the enemy at all. We view them as signals. They're the language of the body. So instead of, silencing them, we want to work with them. And what we're also doing is we're removing the obstacles that are creating these in the first place. And we want to restore balance to the body. So the goal isn't lifelong just managing your symptoms for the rest of your life. It's actually really healing you and curing you. And that's the biggest difference. And look, I hate to sound harsh about the medical system, but we're being lied to. So I get a little passionate about this. So if I do get a little passionate, please excuse me.
I don't think you ever have to apologize for being passionate. I do think that we can make a distinction because we tend to both get very passionate and fired up about these things. And when we especially talk about the comparison and the contrast between the Western allopathic model and more of the traditional naturopathic model, it can sound like we are attacking or criticizing medical doctors. And we're actually not. We're just highlighting the difference and also being more critical of the system in which doctors practice in. There are many aspects to healthcare now where medical doctors have truly lost their autonomy and they are not allowed to practice the way they used to. They are caught up in a system that is very profit driven. There are many medical doctors out there who are really dedicated to their patients. They're working hard. Their heart and intentions are
Absolutely.
in the right place. And there's definitely a time and a place for that. It's just that there's also this whole other side to medicine that people are not even aware of existing, that we also feel like is very important to share with people. And there are people out there who genuinely want to just take a pill for their symptoms. And we both feel like you should have the right to choose that. You should have the right to choose the type of healthcare you want. So if you don't want to have to take responsibility for your health, if you don't want to have to make any changes whatsoever or deal with anything really physically, emotionally, or spiritually, then taking a pill for your symptoms is the right choice for you. And what we're talking about is more so for the people who really are ready and interested and to know how to identify the underlying issues that are creating their symptoms so that they can be empowered to make the changes to heal themselves.
If you talk to people who've gone the conventional medicine route, they're taking the pills, you're going to see they have like a laundry list of problems. They're exhausted all the time. They've got arthritis and pain in their joints. They're losing their hair. They're gaining weight. They can't get it off. They have all these issues. And they may take one pill for something, like they might take a pill to lower their blood pressure. Great. Their blood pressure comes down, but they still have all these other issues. You talk to people who actually go to a naturopathic doctor, and what they will tell you is that, yeah, I had this laundry list of problems, and all of a sudden, within a week or two, they started getting better. I started sleeping better. I started actually losing some weight. My hair stopped falling out. My pain went away. That's real healing. We're not just suppressing. So that's also a big difference.
Thank you. I think that was a great example. I would like to add one of the differences in the philosophical perspectives is in conventional medicine, the body is viewed like a machine with separate parts. And this is why you see a different doctor for each part of the body. But in naturopathic medicine, we view the body as one whole living complex where everything is connected and everything works together. So, if I could add on to your example, let's say a person has high blood pressure and they also have constipation and they also have headaches. In the Western model, they're going to see a cardiologist, a gastroenterologist, and a neurologist, and you're going to get on 1 to 2 pills for each of those diagnoses. And then you might also need additional pills for the side effects of those medications or the interactions of those medications. But then if you're working with a traditional naturopathic doctor and they're treating the whole person and you look at the headaches, the high blood pressure, the constipation, you realize these can all be symptoms of a chronic magnesium deficiency. And so if you're just replenishing something the body's low in that it needs, that alone can make a big difference. But it's really looking at what are the lowest common denominators that are causing all of this? Because as Dr. Tauzin said earlier, the symptoms aren't the issue. The symptoms are the body's way of communicating that something's wrong or out of balance. And our job as the naturopathic doctor is to listen to your body and help understand what it's trying to communicate. Now, in that example, it could be as simple as low magnesium. It could also be that they're eating one or more foods that are creating an issue. There could also be an emotional aspect where if somebody's holding a lot of tension and we need to get to the root of that. Sometimes it's one thing, oftentimes it's a few things, but it's the same few things that keep showing up. And what you think of as different problems are all related to the same underlying imbalance.
Absolutely. So, yeah, and I think another point to kind of go through today is that there's a big difference between us and other alternative health practitioners. And a lot of people don't understand that either. Like, they kind of lump in chiropractors and health coaches and nutritionists and naturopathic doctors and functional doctors. We're kind of lumped into one thing. Like, I get a lot of people a lot of patients who've come to me and they say, "Oh, I've been to several health coaches and they couldn't help me. So I don't know if you're going to be able to help me." And I'm like, there's a huge difference here, right? So understanding when to go to what practitioner is super important. So, like, for instance, I would go to a chiropractor if I had some kind of spinal issue, or like if I have chronic headaches, or if I have pains and different things like that, I would probably go see a chiropractor for structural stuff. I would go to a nutritionist when it's specifically wanting to change my diet and using diet to help myself. I would go to a health coach if I wanted somebody to help me with accountability and mindset shifts. A health coach, they can help you make changes, but they can't tell you what changes to make. That's not their job. And even a functional doctor. We are very similar to functional doctors, but there is a big difference between us.
There are MDs, DOs, nurse practitioners, naturopathic doctors. Many now call themselves functional medicine practitioners, which can be a little bit confusing for the public. And the way I consider it is functional medicine is that blend of integrated medicine where it's being more outside of the box with thinking, tending more towards natural medicine approaches, but it's doing that without the philosophical context. And this is part of why people end up getting tested for everything and getting pills for everything. That can be very overwhelming for a lot of people. But it can also be very helpful for people if they've only ever experienced Western medicine and they've never had a practitioner who's willing to think outside of the box for what's causing their symptoms. I would say there's a lot of benefit to functional medicine. It's just a little bit different still from naturopathic medicine. And I feel like we should also talk about how confusing naturopathic doctors and naturopathy is to the public, because there are naturopathic doctors like ourselves who can be licensed. There's also variations in licensure state by state. And we will use the term naturopath as short to refer to ourselves. But there are practitioners out there who also call themselves naturopaths who never attended medical school. They may have some really cool training in certain aspects of natural healing, but they are not actual doctors who have gone to medical school and taken board exams and et cetera. So there's a variation there. But then there's also this split within our profession where there are naturopathic doctors who really want to practice like a medical doctor, and they might solely prescribe medications in their practice. Or they might use a natural supplement or herb instead of a drug. And so that can be confusing because you might want to look for a naturopathic doctor and you might not know right away, is this a traditional naturopathic doctor or is this a naturopathic doctor who's practicing more like a medical doctor? I feel like this just creates a lot of confusion, and I wish it was easy. I wish I could say to the public, just find a naturopathic doctor and you'll get great care. That unfortunately isn't always the case because each of us practice a little bit differently. Dr. Tauzin and I are colleagues who happen to practice similarly, but we both also practice in ways that are different within that.
Say the best advice I have for people is if you go to somebody, be educated about what you're looking for and ask questions. But also, if you're going to someone and they're not helping you, don't give up. Look for another practitioner who practices differently, because I promise you there'll be a practitioner out there that can help you reverse your condition. And I do want to say too, we have seen so many amazing cures happen. We've seen so many amazing conditions actually be healed. So I know a doctor in Texas who has cured ALS. He's
Mhm.
cured 5 people with ALS. Now, unfortunately, he just retired this year and closed down his clinic, which is very sad. But that is possible. Like we're told by the medical industry, you'll never cure that and you're going to die from that. It's a death sentence. That's not true. Dr. Wertkin has cured people who have type 1 diabetes, people who have MS. We've seen amazing cures. I had a lady with a paralyzed leg that we got her walking again. So don't think that just because you have some crazy disease that you won't be able to cure it.
I'm so glad that you added that, because that was one of the most amazing things for me when I finally found a naturopathic doctor who was practicing according to this philosophy that we learned and were trained in. I didn't know anything was curable at that point at all, even for myself. And it was amazing to see that literally everything that was walking in the door could be curable. And it isn't because just some of us are geniuses. It's really because the body knows how to heal when we create the right conditions for it. And we become like these medical detectives looking for what are the underlying causes, not just root causes, but what are the obstacles to the cure? Because once we address those, the body knows how to heal.
Do you want to tell them a little bit about how you became a naturopathic doctor?
Sure. Well, and that story, I'll try to keep it short, but it really was born out of my own health history and navigating several chronic diseases for most of my life. And I feel like this is a motivator for a lot of our colleagues. It's either their own health journey or a loved one's health journey that motivated them to get answers. I was going to medical specialists for so long and getting drugs for symptoms and not feeling better on them, oftentimes feeling worse. Fast forward, it was actually a chiropractor who was treating me after a car accident who started talking to me about my diet and my gut health and started digging deeper than any other practitioner. That's what really opened my eyes to the whole world of natural medicine. And I started getting really excited and learning, especially because just changing my diet for the first time, I started to feel better. Just even a little bit better was amazing. By the time I was in college, I was suffering with chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, IBS. I remember I started just getting bloated and I was severely bloated every day. I looked like I was at least 7 months pregnant almost every day. I had daily migraines and I had endometriosis. It was just a lot of pain and a lot of fatigue and not a lot of help. And at that point, too, for many of us who have to live like that, you just learn how to get through each day, even though you're in pain and you're exhausted. But it's the only way. Otherwise, you're just going to be in bed, not functioning. It was around that time I also saw an interview and it highlighted for me the mind body connection. And I got very interested in the field of neuroendocrine immunology, how they all work together, kind of the science behind the mind body connection. And ultimately, I decided I want to become the kind of doctor I'm looking for so that when I learn how to not suffer, I can help others not suffer for as long as I did. And at that point, I had learned about naturopathic medicine and saw all these things about it that really appealed to me. But even then, I didn't really understand it. You know, what I thought it was when I started medical school was just a fraction of what it actually is. And I also went to see over a dozen naturopathic doctors, and they didn't help me, unfortunately. And I remember one even telling me I must not want to get better because I wasn't responding to their treatment. And, you know, if you've been in that kind of situation, you know how desperate you are to feel better and how disheartening it is if a doctor tells you, well, you just don't want to get better or you're not trying hard enough or what, you know. But eventually I found a naturopathic doctor who actually practiced according to the philosophy. And they told me it's going to take at least a year or two for you to reverse everything. And I went home and cried because I just wanted to feel better right away. But I didn't understand that I would start feeling better right away. It would just take 1 to 2 years to completely reverse all those conditions. And that's exactly what happened. After 2 years, I no longer was suffering with chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia. My daily migraines were gone. The endometriosis was gone. No drugs, no surgery. And I got to experience firsthand what it's like to reverse all of these illnesses. And for me, it's truly been a dream come true that I now have a career where I get to be the kind of doctor that I was looking for other people so they don't have to suffer as long. It's been, yeah, amazing. So, how about you, Dr. Tozan?
My story is very similar to yours, actually. I had a bunch of symptoms and was suffering. I had IBS since I was little. I had mold exposure, got chronic fatigue. I had endometriosis. I had all these things. And I will tell you, conventional medicine was never able to help me at all. It made me worse, put me on birth control for years, which caused so many problems. And so, yeah, I have very similar story. And being a naturopathic doctor is one of the best things ever because I see people who are in the same boat I was, and they get these amazing benefits and they reverse their condition and they get their life back. So that's been really awesome. So do you want to talk a little bit about what kind of work you've been doing since you got out of medical school?
I completed a residency. I did a 2 year residency in natural family medicine, which was really incredible. And I want to add that when I graduated from naturopathic medical school, I still thought that we were kind of a less than doctor, that MDs were still the gold standard at that point. And I just thought I could never know enough to be as smart as a medical doctor. And during my residency, I did a lot of rotations with medical specialists, which was so valuable for me. But one of the surprising benefits was learning just how excellent our education was, particularly in the basic sciences. There were so many things that we were trained in that the MDs were not even considering when they were with patients. And it blew my mind, but it also started to really build my confidence, especially when I would see patients on rotation with various MDs, and then I'd see the difference in the outcomes for the patients on my rotations with the NDs and going,
Hmm.
oh, wow, this is really what I'm wanting. So I ended up joining my main mentor's practice and training with him or practicing with him for 7 years. And then I went out and opened my own holistic primary care practice in a low income, underserved community. And I really, really loved that. At that point, I was licensed in a state where we can be licensed as primary care physicians, had full scope to prescribe medications, although I really didn't want to because my expertise is in other things. I took all health insurances at that time. I really, really wanted to make natural medicine as affordable and accessible to people as possible. And I did that for a few years. And then I burnt out and I relocated to another state and went back to specializing in natural medicine for disease reversal. I realized that it was a gift to be in the role of a primary care and be able to help people that way. But I was also serving as all of their medical specialists at the same time, which is too much to fit into a short visit if you're in the insurance world. And so with that transition, I also stopped being in network with insurance. I really wanted to be able to spend more time with people, be able to answer all their questions and not be locked in. And I feel like we could have a whole separate episode just on the scammy part of health insurance and why many naturopathic doctors don't take insurance. Although right now we're also practicing in a state where I don't even know that we can. And again, that goes back to how our licensure and scope of practice varies state by state, which can be a big factor in your access to this type of care. My biggest passion is doing health restoration or disease reversal. And in my practice, I love using any of the tools available depending on what a person needs. I know some of our colleagues specialize in one modality or they might specialize in one population. I personally love seeing every person that walks in the door and seeing the variety and just helping the person because that's ultimately what I'm treating, not just the disease name or symptoms. And again, being able to pull from any of the tools in my toolbox to what this person needs. You know, some people for instance, respond brilliantly to homeopathy. And homeopathy can be very inexpensive. It can taste good. That's really how my mentor practice and what I learned really works for me. I love having a variety of tools in my toolbox so that I can choose which tools are going to be the right tools needed for this person with what's going on for them. I will say, practicing in New England for almost 2 decades, I saw so much Lyme disease. I saw so much mold toxicity. I've also navigated those in myself. I feel like all the conditions I tend to also see a lot of because I can relate to it and understand it the most. And even going through my own burnout led me to learn so much more about the benefits and understanding what nervous system healing is and all of that role in treating chronic illness. But I don't specialize in one thing. I really just specialize in health restoration or chronic disease reversal. And that's even still what my practice is today, even though I keep relocating to different parts of the country. People who know me know I'm a little bit of a gypsy that way, but I kind of just go where God sends me to be in service.
So, Dr. Wertkin, I don't want to embarrass you, but I know you've won a couple of awards. Do you want to tell us about that?
Oh my gosh, awards. I was voted the best physician in my area when I was practicing as a primary care physician. I received that award several years in a row before I relocated. That felt like a huge honor to be considered the best physician in my community. I've also taught at a medical school, a couple different courses. I was an adjunct faculty at a medical school and also helped co-create an institute to offer postgraduate training to other naturopathic doctors. Those are some big accomplishments, I suppose. In the past, I've been on the conference network giving lectures at various medical conferences, but all of that I have since quieted down on.
I just think it's fascinating that you won Best Physician, including NDs and MDs. So that was all around. That's pretty cool.
Thank
That's
you.
really awesome because indies don't get amazing awards from medical establishments. So yeah, and so just so you guys know a little bit about me and my work, after I graduated, I opened up a weight loss center and I worked there for a couple of years. And then I kind of made the switch to corporate wellness. I moved overseas and I started working with a company where I was doing naturopathic medicine with all the employees and teaching them how to be healthy. And I got to work there for like 10 years and I became an international speaker. I went all over the world giving talks and spreading the message of naturopathic medicine, which was really awesome. I did a big diabetes program while I was there. So that was really cool because I was there for 10 years. So I got to see so many people reverse their diabetes and people who had pre-diabetes when I first started there who never developed diabetes throughout the 10 years while I was working with them, which was really cool. And then after that, I moved back to the United States and I opened up a private practice in Colorado. And I've been here the last 5 years. And I've mainly been working with menopausal women, perimenopausal, postmenopausal. I do work with men and other people, but mostly menopausal women because that runs the gambit with everything. Menopausal women have all kinds of digestive issues, autoimmune conditions, blood sugar issues, gastric issues, mental, emotional concerns. So, yeah, so it's been quite a journey and I love it because we're just spreading naturopathic medicine to the rest of the world. And one of my biggest accomplishments was I did win an award while I was overseas as well. And I was voted Health and Wellness Champion. And I was given that award by actually from an insurance company. They don't often recognize naturopathic medicine. So that was really awesome. What else would you like to add?
I was just thinking, as a random aside, when I say naturopathic doctor, sometimes people say, "Oh, I thought it was naturopathic, not naturopathic."
Mm.
And I want to say both are valid. Some people say naturopathic like the word natural, and I prefer naturopathic like nature. And again, it doesn't really matter, but I shifted how I said it when I learned the principle, the vis medicatrix naturae. That's Latin for the healing power of nature. And that's part of why I named my practice Naturae Medical, after the Latin for nature. But the reason I love this principle so much is because I also misunderstood it for years. When I first heard about the healing power of nature, I thought it meant because nature provides healing plants, and that's the healing power of nature. The herbs we have access to, the plants in the jungle that could maybe cure cancer. That's what I thought it meant. It is true that nature has very medicinal and healing plants of all kinds, but that's not what that phrase means. And then I thought, if it's not that, it must mean it's the healing power of nature that you experience when you spend time in nature, right? They've done all these different studies and documented all of the health benefits, all of the physiological changes that occur when you spend time out in nature. So we know that's true, but that's not really still what it means when we talk about the healing power of nature. The healing power of nature is those, and it's referring to this healing force, this innate wisdom that exists in all living things. It exists in nature and it exists in our bodies. And that healing power, that innate wisdom is always striving for health as balance. So when things get out of balance in the body, that means we have to look for what is getting in the way, what is impeding this ability. And when we do that, the body knows how to heal. That's the healing power of nature. Some people also think of it as an energy of God or God's wisdom that exists in us. We could have a whole digression in this conversation around the spiritual aspects associated. And I like to just share one example to illustrate because this can be a very foreign concept to people. So let me just give a quick example to say. When you get a paper cut, you get a tiny little paper cut, it gets red, it hurts, it's tiny, but it can be very painful. Maybe you put ointment or a Band-Aid on it, but most of the time people don't do anything. And what happens? Without any conscious thought, the body is sending the right cells to that area to clean up what's happening, repair it, and rebuild new tissue. How does the body know how to do it? All by itself. It knows exactly how to heal that. And the next thing you know, within a few days, you don't even see the cut. All you see is regenerated cell tissue. Unless somebody has a particular chronic illness that is affecting their immune system or affecting their circulation, then in those conditions, the body may not be able to heal that cut. That cut might become infected. It might take even longer to heal because there's other things going on impeding its ability. But our job, our role as naturopathic physicians is to then identify what are those obstacles? What are the things getting in the way? Because we're ultimately in service to that innate wisdom that always knows how to restore health as balance in the right conditions. So I know I just nerded out a little bit on the philosophy, but it's just something that Dr. Tauzin and I are so passionate about. And the more we talk about it, hopefully the more it will make sense to you and understanding also how it is we can talk about cure, how it is we can say we're seeing these results because we are operating from a different perspective when it comes to the body and health and disease.
And that's where disease comes from when we're not living in the flow with life and nature. And I think, like the obstacles to cure, a lot of it is our lifestyle. We don't go out in the sun. We stay indoors with blue light. We're eating things we shouldn't be eating. We're fighting our own nature. And so, yeah, that's really important to understand too.
Yes. And I just want to add that for many people, when they do go out in the sun, they are slapping on sunblock, usually lots of chemicals, to block
Mm-hmm.
the sun, and they're putting on their sunglasses, right? And so you might even be outside, but you're still doing things that are impeding some of the benefits that you really can get. And this is just one example of why we see this epidemic of vitamin D deficiencies
Yeah.
across the country because not only are people not getting outside, when they go outside, they're unintentionally doing things that inhibit the body from fully absorbing all those benefits.
Yeah.
So anyway, as you can tell, I can digress on almost any topic related. We can save things for future episodes. We have a lot that we are planning to go over, but if there is a particular topic that you really want us to discuss and go over, please don't hesitate to reach out and let us know. We want to make sure that our topics are exactly on the information that you're wanting to know the most about. And so for today, I will just say thank you for spending this time with us. And I encourage you to learn how to listen to your body. And if you are not sure how, then keep listening to this show. And we hope to guide you to that.
Yeah, and I hope this episode challenged what you've been thinking about your health, because that's what we're aiming to do. Trust your body, honor your nature, and keep choosing health. Till next time, we'll see you on Truth Bombs and Tinctures. Thank you.